This is The Reconnected Woman, hosted by tahlsskye. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of The Reconnected Woman. I am very excited to be jumping into today's episode, which is going to be about binge eating, all things binge eating. For those who don't know, I have a background in binge eating myself. I've also helped hundreds of women with binge eating. This is something that I've studied and I actually have a certification in. So I've learned a lot over the last few years, when it comes to binge eating, and I've actually changed my mindset and my beliefs a lot surrounding binge eating and why it happens. And I kind of want to unpack that today. And before we get into the episode, I do want to just talk about, my journey with binge eating. So from as young as I'd probably say 4 years old, I had a very poor relationship with food and my body. I was very body conscious, body aware. I always felt a lot bigger than I actually was, and I had a lot of, body dysmorphia. And then obviously on the other side of that came food. And so when I looked at food, I did label food as good or bad. I did label food as something that would either make me skinny or make me fat. And there was a lot of guilt and shame surrounding food and what I ate. And I think that this was just from years of conditioning, right? The magazines, conversations that my mum would have and her insecurities, which no shade, but I think that a lot of women don't realize the effects of what they say around, younger people and how much that kind of shapes their reality. And I also think about, my friends and the conversations that they would have around their body. So that's a big part of where it stemmed from. I always wanted to be smaller. I wanted to be skinnier. And so I tried to control food as much as I could. Now, I would have a lot of food focus, and I truly believe a big part of that is because I was constantly dieting and then restricting. I did my first challenge when I was 15 or 16. And I think I've talked to you guys about this before, but it was like this 12-week challenge that my mum did. And I joined that challenge. Now, I calculated the macros and calories that they got me on, and I was on 580 calories, I think it was. And I was so restricted, and then I would have these massive binges. And I even remember when I would, go out with my friends and we'd get like a big milkshake or something, I would then feel so guilty that I would go home and, just a bit of a trigger warning here, but I would throw it up because I was like, I don't want that in my body. I don't want to gain fat. And that's kind of what happened within this challenge. I was obviously severely under restricting, which then meant that I was then binging. And this then just kept translating over the years into other areas of my life where I was constantly gaining, losing. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. And so over the years of then competing and doing the same cycles over and over again, I realized that I think a big part of why I was binging was actually because I didn't have any self-acceptance with my body and I could not accept it for where it was at. And so I would do these big diets to then only obviously completely blow out and then try to regain control and then blow out and regain control. And I always thought that if I had a holiday or if I had an event, I had to lose weight. And so a big part of actually healing my relationship with food and my body was really reconnecting to my body and understanding its needs and understanding, my body's requirements. And it doesn't surprise me that so many people have binge eating tendencies and that so many people do struggle with their relationship with food because look at how they're eating throughout the day. Look at the diets that they're on. I mean, your body is a messenger and your body is always trying to tell you things, but we are constantly pushing our body beyond its limits and not in a positive way. I'm all for pushing limits and other aspects. But when it comes to your body, it's not going to be sustainable and it's not going to last. And it never did. I look back at all those years. I mean, it never was sustainable. I look at my body now, and even though it's not its smallest, I've maintained my weight for about 2 years now, which a past version of me would have shamed myself for that and been like, you haven't changed your body in that time. But this new version of me is like, wow, you have so much freedom, an incredible relationship with food, and you've maintained your weight and you've traveled and, done so many amazing things. And I really feel the significance in that from someone who was constantly chopping and changing. I really needed to find this baseline for myself. And this is what I'm trying to say for a lot of people. there's all different reasons why you're binge eating. I mean, a big one is the emotional side of things. And this is what I'm trying to say to you guys surrounding the reconnected woman. When you are disconnected from your emotions, from understanding your psychology, understanding your needs, understanding your behavior patterns, it's very easy to turn to food for comfort. So a lot of people who can't handle their emotions, they're either addicted to their phones and they're constantly scrolling. They're addicted to getting forms of, dopamine through other things. It could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be porn. But for a lot of people, it's food, okay? Because when they're eating their food, they are getting that dopamine hit and it's taking them away from that uncomfortable feeling because they don't want to feel it. They want to avoid, they want to distract, they want to numb. And honestly, I've also seen within a lot of people with ADHD, they also overeat quite a bit if they're not handling their emotions because they are trying to search for dopamine, and that gives them that instant feel-good feeling of like, oh, this is so yummy. I love this so much. And then the guilt and shame kicks in and then they restrict. And because they're restricting, they then eat again. So I know for a fact when you are someone who is connected to your body, the binging definitely does reduce significantly because you're able to actually handle your emotions and sit with your emotions and get curious. And the reason I am so aware of this is because this is very much what would happen to myself. So I was reflecting the other day and I was saying to a client that I haven't binge ate in years and years and years and years. And that is something that I am so proud to say, coming from a very big background of disordered eating. And I didn't even realize, like I haven't even thought about it because I've just been in my own little world and just ticking along. And when I thought about it, I really dissected, I guess, why. And I was saying to this client that I'm now able to kind of sit with myself and understand my body and its needs. So back in the day when I felt very uncomfortable in my body, when I was very disconnected from my body, I was binging. And it was that instant feel-good feeling, which would then result in guilt and shame. But now I'm able to like process my emotions more. And I think a big part of it is being able to tap into my wants versus my needs. I am very good at understanding my body's needs now, but I also give myself what I want. And I think there's a big issue with people's ratios between their wants and their needs. I think we should have a bit of an 80-20 ratio where it's like 80% of the time giving your body what it needs and then 20% of the time giving your body what it wants. So often it is just you pausing for a moment before being so rational, reconnecting to your body and just sitting down for 1 second and going, hey, I know you want to binge right now, but what do you actually need? Where is this coming from? Have you not eaten enough today? Are you stressed? Do you need to call a friend and have a chat? Do you need to run yourself a bath and have a hot chockey and just like relax? Do you need to go for a run? Do you need to call your psychologist? Do you need to sit down and have a big nourishing meal? You know, a lot of the answers are there, but we don't want to sit with ourselves and even just ask ourselves that question. I had been going through a bit of a challenging time recently, and it's funny, my coping strategies now versus then. Back in the day, difficult time meant probably just overeating, numbing, distracting, staying in bed, scrolling. Whereas the other day I got my journal out, and I'm not a massive journaler in the sense of I don't journal every day. I generally journal when I feel called to. And so I got my oracle cards, I got my journal because I'm a little bit woo-woo like that, and put some like soft relaxing music on, lit my incense, like made it this whole vibe. And I'm like, okay, we're going to figure out what the fuck's going on, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, why you're in this funk. And it was probably about 20 minutes where I just sat there and I let it all out. And it was funny because at the start, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And 20 minutes later, I knew exactly what was going on and I had strategies in place to be able to move through it. So within that journal session, I was able to dig deep and feel what was coming up because I created the space. And again, a lot of people have so many issues of repeating these negative patterns because they're not able to sit with themselves or create the space. And their initial response is, I don't know. We do know. We always know. And this is why I think a lot of people have a lot of deep and profound experiences when they go to places like breath work or when someone runs an event and guides them through some sort of meditation, or even with their psychologist, because guess what? You're not on your phone. You don't have the opportunity to say, I don't know. You are being called forward, and you are being called to sit with yourself and dig a bit deeper. And so through breathwork, a lot of people are like, fuck, I can't believe what came up for me. Or in their psychology sessions, they're like, oh, I didn't even know that that would come up. But it was always there deep down. And that's what happens when you're reconnected to your body. You start understanding and you start creating space for things. And so it doesn't mean that you have to have hours every day of just like, I don't know, digging deep. But sometimes it's just like turning the radio off in your car and sitting with yourself and letting your thoughts come up. You know, a lot of the time I drive in silence because I want that time to kind of sit with myself and my thoughts. And when I used to work in corporate and drive to and from the city every day, a lot of my like dreams and goals and deep and profound thoughts came from sitting in that car and sitting with myself and creating that space. And so just kind of coming back to the binge eating, I think that is a big part of the issue, is a lot of people don't understand why they're binge eating. And they just tell themselves that they don't know. But if I guarantee if you did what I did, where you created the space to have that calm environment, put your fucking phone away, set an alarm for 20 minutes or however long it is, and you just sat and you let whatever comes up to come up, and you actually pinpointed what was going on, I think you'd have the answer. Okay, and then the other side of this is, which I think is the most biggest one, you're not eating enough. You're not giving your body what it needs. And maybe you are eating enough, but maybe it's shitty quality food. Your body is extremely smart. Your body has requirements of what it needs. Now, I often think about the fact that we are living in a society where our body is just not getting what it needs anymore. We have such high inflammatory foods. We have a lot of amazing, delicious processed foods that aren't so good for us. We have so many drinks available that aren't water. We have quick, easy, convenient meals, like all of it, right? And so this means that our body is not really getting what it needs. And when our body's not getting what it needs, whether that's sleep, water, food, whatever it is, it's going to be signaling to you, hey, I want to eat. So this is what happens with a lot of people. They are trying to diet, like this is one person. They're in a deficit all the time. They're constantly trying to lose weight, and then they're binging, and then they're trying to lose weight, and then they're binging, and you look at their day, they are just not eating enough. You know, they're pushing their first meal back to like 11 a.m. And then their first meal is something that is just low calorie. Their snack is a protein bar. Their lunch is a tin of tuna with 2 rice cakes. And then they get home and they're like, holy fuck, I am ravenous. The floodgates open. You binge on every little thing in sight. And then you feel guilty. So what do you do the next day? You restrict. You push food back that little bit more. You cut calories even more. So what do? You come home and you raid the pantry, and the cycle continues. Okay? And that cycle is going to continue until you break it. And how you break it is actually through structuring your meals properly, eating enough, giving your body what it needs. You know, all these artificial sweeteners and this processed crap is empty calories. And so I often think about when I was deep in my binge eating days, my body was just not getting what it needs. It was trying to get me to survive. It was trying to get me to eat things to have fuel. And so you often think about a car. Well, I want you to think about a car. When a car is on empty, the flashlight is going to be going off to tell you, hey, I've got no fuel, or I'm running out of fuel. And so it's constantly got that light on. That is like your body. If you are not giving your body what it needs or the correct fuel, your body is constantly going to be signaling to you to, hey, I want to eat, right? Until you do eat. And often by that point, you've left it on low for so long that it just needs a full tank. And that's when you binge. Now, in order to prevent that, if you just kept giving your body what it needs and had the correct fuel, it wouldn't have those alarm bells going off. It wouldn't have the sign or the signal saying, hey, let's eat. And so in order to prevent that, start eating enough and start eating regularly. The reason why I haven't binged in many, many years is because I'm not constantly dieting anymore. And I'm not constantly underfueling or undernourishing my body. You know, I cut back from a lot of healthy fats. I didn't really think about vitamins or minerals or my body's requirements. And so my body was just trying to do the best that it could to protect me. I think a lot of people have this fear that when they eat more and they eat more regularly, that they're going to gain all this weight, but it's the complete opposite. You have consistency. It's not up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just this beautiful straight line. And of course, it kind of comes in waves a little bit, but that's kind of the place that I'm at now. And I think a lot of people also fear having a lot of nutrient dense foods because from a caloric perspective, these things are very high in calories. When I think about a lot of what I have in my day, the steak, having egg yolks, having butter, having real sourdough, my mind would be like, why the fuck would I have organic sourdough when I could have low carb bread? Why would I have yolks when I could have egg whites and have more volume? Why would I have a big piece of steak when I can have chicken breast and then have a bigger dessert later? But the reality is you're not going to need the big dessert later and all those things because you're fueled. This was such a game changer for me because I just couldn't understand why I was so hungry all the time. And I remember labeling myself as a bottomless pit who just ate and ate and ate and ate, when now I'm very happy to leave food on my plate when I'm out. I don't feel the need to overindulge. I can't remember the last time I ate till I was extremely full. And that's because my body is good. It's got its hunger hormones, ghrelin and leptin leveled, where a lot of people who are binge eating have imbalances with their hormones, especially ghrelin and leptin, which is then not signaling to them that they're full or that they're hungry. It's just all over the place and they can eat till the cows come home and often till they're sick. So maybe the reason why you need a million snacks in your day, you need that big dessert, is because you're having low calorie everything. You're not eating enough. You're pushing your meals back so far to the point of blood sugar dysregulation, to the point where it's like, feed me and feed me a lot, please. So this is what I want you to try if you are binge eating. Firstly, please start sitting with yourself and getting curious with where it's coming from. Is it because you're not eating enough, like I was saying? Is it an emotional thing? And if that is the case, then what does your body actually need? And start choosing differently, right? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So where are you being in this circle and continuing to go around and round and thinking that that's going to give you a different result? I'm telling you now, it's not. I had to change everything. I had to change my way of being, my way of thinking, my way of doing. And in return, I was able to create a new cycle and a very healthy one. And this is what people don't realize. They think that their way is the only way, and it's not. And often you just need that circuit breaker and to choose differently. The second thing is, I really want you to start eating more calorie-dense, nourishing foods that your body needs to function. Start understanding nutrition and what it does to your body and the benefits of it. When I eat now, I often think about what it's going to be doing to my body. So not going to lie, on the way to record this podcast, I was a bit pressed for time. I didn't have very good time management skills this morning. And I was like, fuck, I'm not going to have enough time for breakfast. Now I got a coffee from Macca's on the way. And it did cross my mind for 1 second to be like, oh, maybe you can just get an egg and bacon muffin. And then I'm like, you are absolutely not doing that. Why? Because I know that the gluten is going to make me inflamed and probably give me a bit of brain fog. I want to feel on fire for this podcast. And if I eat that food, probably going to make me feel quite sluggish. So instead, what did I do? I just boiled 3 eggs, took me like 8 minutes, ate them on the way here, felt great. Obviously, it's not super substantial, but it's enough for now. And I knew that eating that food was going to help me with my brain. It was going to help me feel more satiated. And now I'm not going to be ravenous and go home and binge. And the past me, to be honest, wouldn't have eaten anything at all. And I would have thought to myself, well, yay, I haven't eaten. I got to push my meals back so much that then I can eat more later. When my mind doesn't even go there now because I understand the cycle. And what would that have done? That would have made me go home absolutely ravenous. Blood sugar dysregulation would have been all over the place. And then I would have probably binged or just had a massive dessert. When now that I've eaten, I'm not going to go home and then raid the pantry because things are level. And so I can really think about my future self now and understand my body's requirements and what it needs. This is what I do when I structure my meals. I'm like, cool, for breakfast, I know I'm going to have some healthy fats and I'm going to have my high protein, and that's going to really help me with my brain fuel for the morning and to get everything switched on. I know that for, my lunch, I'm going to have this slow cooked meat, which is really going to help me with my digestion, and it's going to help me have more fuel. And I just understand what is going into my body and why it's going in there. So I have a relationship with my body. It is a collaboration. I take care of my body and it takes care of me, where a lot of people are very disconnected. and they wonder why they're at war with their body, is because they're not working with it. You're pushing it to limits that it just can't recover from. You are underfueling it. You're underfeeding it. You are unkind to it. And of course, in return, it's not going to treat you very well. And that's where you are going to have food noise, fatigue, acne, hair loss, all of it, because it's like, hey, how many signs can I give you before you listen? And so when it comes to binging, please start treating your body like someone you love and respect. If you ate enough and if you had things at set times, and say you eat every 2 hours, start your day with a high protein, high fat breakfast. Then in another 2 hours, have a really decent sized snack, whether it's, a big yogurt bowl with some fruit and some peanut butter or something, not just a fucking fiber one bar. The protein bar ain't gonna cut it. Why? Because it's empty calories. It doesn't have the requirements of what your body is made to have, right? If you think back to the olden days, if we're gonna go there, they didn't have all this food. That's not what our body is designed to have. And so, of course, we can have these things sometimes. But again, if you are a binge eater and that's all you're filling up on, your body is going to have that light going off to say, hey, feed me. I remember when I used to eat my oats for breakfast and I would pack them with a lot of artificial sweeteners. 30 minutes later, starving, absolutely starving. And I was talking to my bestie about this and she said I could talk about this. So Mel, shout out to you. But Mel, the other week, had a protein shake, and I'm pretty sure she had some toast with, I can't remember what was on it. Let's say Nutella. She had Nutella toast and a protein shake because she was on the go. As soon as she had that, 20 minutes later, starving, ravenous. She then switched to having a high protein, high fat meal for breakfast. I'm pretty sure it was sourdough with pulled beef and some boiled eggs. Fantastic breakfast, and cottage cheese. She was so satiated, so full, to the point that she didn't need to eat till like 11 a.m. And this is what happens when your body is fueled. It's not going to be ravenous. It's not going to be starving. So you're not going to overeat. And that's what happened to me when I was eating oats every day with all the artificial sweeteners. I would have this massive blood sugar spike, this massive drop. And because it was empty calories, my body was signaling literally 30 minutes later, hey, we're starving. I need more. Now I have my high protein, high fat, savory breakfast. And look, everyone's different. Find what works for you. If you feel amazing from your breakfast, you have a great relationship with food, keep doing you. But what I will say is myself and a lot of my clients have switched to the high fat, savory breakfast and have noticed such a big difference with our energy levels and our sustained fullness throughout the day, which then has a flow-on effect to so many other areas of the day. So again, if you're a binger, you need to be eating breakfast. And it needs to be high in protein, high in healthy fats. Even if it's just some organic sourdough with some boiled eggs, some avocado. I love to have a bone broth on the side. Like that just keeps me full until about 11 a.m. And then eating every 2 hours, like I was saying, and having enough whole foods, and then have your soul foods. If you want to have a little treaty treat in the afternoon or for dessert, have it. Like you need to focus on your mind, your body, and your soul. Okay, so your body does need, and your mind, whole foods, nourishing foods, foods that work with your body. And then your soul needs a little treaty treat here and there. And that gets to be okay. And then on the weekends, like allow yourself to have a meal out, allow yourself to enjoy, stop putting these extreme rules on yourself, because look at where it's getting you. It's not getting you anywhere. So I just think that a lot of people who are binging are just incredibly undernourished. And even if you are overeating, you're not eating the right foods. And if we're going to get a little bit controversial here, I do believe there are good and bad foods, but I also think you're allowed to have the foods that aren't so great for your body. So there are foods out there that are going to cause you to have inflammation and gut issues and all the things, and they're not so good for you. And then I believe that there are great foods out there for you, but both can exist. And we need to find that ratio, like I'm trying to say, because if you are having those not so great foods for your body constantly, then you're going to have a body that's very disconnected from its requirements and needs and not operate the way that you want it to. It's kind of like just putting that shitty fuel in your car. It's not going to run well and it's not going to last long. When you put the premium fuel in the car, it's going to run far better, far smoother, and you're going to have far more longevity. So find your ratio, find your balance, start getting curious about your body, start reconnecting to your body and knowing its needs, because I now know that's how I function best. I know what foods react well with me. I know what foods don't react so well with me. But yeah, it's crazy to sit here and say like I'm completely binge free. I don't think I'll ever binge again if I'm going to be honest. It's just not even